Hi, my name is Christina and I have Mobius syndrome. So, if you don't know what Mobius syndrome is, if you've never heard of it, in short, it is a congenital condition that's present at birth. So, people who have it are born with it, and it affects the sixth and seventh cranial nerve. The sixth cranial nerve, which controls eye movement, and then the seventh cranial nerve, which controls facial movement. And so the seventh cranial nerve is responsible for helping you do facial expressions or smile. In my case, I cannot close my lips and I can't move the upper lip. And so essentially, I don't have what is a natural smile. I did have to have surgery to be able to sort of mimic a smile, or so that I could have a little bit more ability to create more facial expression. And today I want to focus on my speech because it is affected by Mobius syndrome. So as you can tell, when I talk, you can pretty much make out what I'm saying. It just doesn't look like it on my lips. Like my lips do not reflect usually the movement that you would expect when people are talking and making certain sounds. So with Mobius syndrome, the sounds that are more difficult for me to make are with the letters B, N, and P, and that is because I can't close my lips. So when you pronounce those letters, usually you need to be able to close your lip so that you can make that sound. So in my case, I cannot do that, and I have to figure out different ways to do this. And I think speech therapy really helped. And I think also because I had 2 rounds of surgeries, the first one didn't work as expected, but I think the second one did. And I didn't realize, or I didn't expect that that would really help with my speech. But yeah, when I try to pronounce letters or words that have the letters B, N, and P, a lot of times it sounds, because I can't really close my lips fully to really create those sounds, it sounds like I'm saying other letters. So then it's a little confusing as to the words that I'm trying to say. And then people get confused with what I'm saying. Like I know what I'm trying to say, and to me it sounds correct, but I know to others they do hear other letters and other sounds. So for example, when I say the letter B, it sounds like I'm saying the letter D. And then when I say the letter M, it sounds like I'm saying N. And then when I say the letter P, it sounds like the letter T, which is really understandable because for those other letters, they're really similar and you don't close your lips. And sometimes if I'm speaking too fast or just not focused and really pronouncing the letters, or sometimes just the word itself is a little difficult for me to say or to make those sounds, then it ends up sounding like a different word. So I know growing up, you refer to your parents like either mom and dad, or like mama and papa. So, and especially because I grew up speaking Spanish, which is a whole nother level of difficulty on top of that. I grew up calling my mom mama, but it sounds a lot like I'm saying nana. And then I grew up calling my dad papa, which sounds like tata, like tata. So it's really similar. And I think as a child, I didn't realize that fully. So it would sound like I was saying those other letters when it wasn't. So I think that's been something that has been very difficult with Mobius syndrome, is pronouncing certain letters and certain sounds. And it's more difficult in certain scenarios. For example, if we're in a loud place where you tend to rely on looking at people's lips and then reading what they're saying, and then even if you vaguely hear a little bit what they're saying, you can connect the two, like the vague sound of the word and the movement of the lips, and then you put it together and then you know what they're saying. But with me, you can't really, I guess, read my lips because I'm not doing the lip movements that you would expect. And so it becomes a little confusing. So in places like concerts concerts or just like conferences that are really loud, or like even at like a club, it's like everything is so loud and it's meant to be loud, but it just makes it difficult to communicate with people because they can't read my lips. Like I can read their lips and yeah, like I understand what they're saying, but then if I try to talk back to them somewhere loud, they're not able to read my lips. So in any scenario where it becomes difficult like this, I either have to spell out the word or give examples like B as in banana, or like M as in Maria, or like P as in potato, things like that, so that they know what I'm trying to say. And like I said earlier, I did grow up speaking 2 languages, and even I think it's interesting that in both languages it can be a little bit difficult to have Mobius syndrome and try to communicate certain sounds. So in English, I think I have found that there are less words with the letters that I have trouble speaking. And in Spanish, the language uses the letters B, P, and N a lot more. So with that, if I'm in a group of people that also speak English and Spanish, I sometimes tend to prefer to speak English with them, because to me, it's easier to speak English and pronounce those letters than Spanish. So I think something that I didn't notice until I started paying attention to this was that I get more tired of speaking in Spanish than in English. And it's because in Spanish, I have to focus more on pronouncing these letters and these words than in English. So when I speak a lot in Spanish, I do notice that my face gets tired more quickly. Like I feel it more like, I think like in my jaw and just like in like my general like mouth area. And I think that's because I do use my jaw to speak. Like I do put a lot of the effort in my lower jaw because I can't move my upper lip. So in Spanish, I have to do it a lot more than in English. So then in general, I just choose to speak English more if the people that I'm with do understand both languages. And I think that's funny because I have gotten funny comments of people that I meet and they know English and Spanish. And for whatever reason, they like to speak more in Spanish and I prefer to speak in English. And so they speak more Spanish and I'll speak to them in English. And then they're like, why aren't you speaking Spanish? And it's like, okay, like I can, but I'd rather not go into this whole segue of like why, I don't want to, because I have Mobius syndrome and I get more tired and it's just harder. But I guess on second thought, I should, because I would like people to know more how people are affected when you have, difficulty because you physically cannot make these sounds. So on second thought, next time that happens, I might just go into a little rant of like what Mobius syndrome is and just, yeah, I'm gonna think about that. But so yeah, I think having Mobius syndrome has affected my speech and how I say certain words or how I have to communicate with people. And I would like to go later on into like different scenarios, especially like things like going to the club and things like that. It gets really interesting because you can't, like, it's so loud. So I want to talk about that later because it's really interesting. But that's what I wanted to share today. So in summary, Mobius syndrome affects the 6th and 7th cranial nerve. And today we talked about the 2nd cranial nerve, which affects facial movement, and that's why I can't close my lips, I can't move them a certain way. So then I do have trouble pronouncing the words with the letters A, P, and M, and I do have certain ways that I try to go around that and try to communicate with people. And so far, it's I think it's been working. So yeah, if any of you have ever had any difficulty with your speech and you have found certain things help, feel free to comment them because I am open to new things to make living with Mobius easier. And yeah, so thank you in advance. And if you want to know more about Mode syndrome and what it is and how it has affected my life, please feel free to subscribe and also follow me on Instagram at my_life with Mobius. I'm going to put it right here. And yeah, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you learned a little bit more about what Mobius syndrome is, or if you didn't know what it was, that now you know what it is and you know a little bit about it. So if you ever encounter it, you already know a little bit about it. So thank you for watching. Bye.